All right, what is going on, Laker fans? What is it, about 9:30? I know, a little bit later than usual, but wanted to talk some Lakers basketball, so we'll figure we're going to do that tonight. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. As you guys know, have had him on before, so the second time I've had Kobe Price, who covers the Los Angeles Lakers for the SoCal News Group. Kobe, what's going on? Thank you for coming on, brother.
Yeah, no, appreciate you having me on again. That first time went well, so hopefully the second time a little bit better.
All right, okay, so you just got in. You were in Phoenix yesterday. When did you get back in?
I got in around like 1 p.m. today. It's a
Okay.
quick flight. Yeah, I think flight landed like 12:50.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Kobe is he's covering the Lakers. So every road game, good chance he's going to be at it. Those long extended road trips, it's a good chance he's going to be on it. Obviously, all the home games, he's there at all the games as well. So Kobe making it happen, and I appreciate his time as always. So what we're going to do tonight, just to give everybody kind of a quick idea, we're just going to shoot the you know what about Lakers basketball. Kobe, not exactly, the best position for the Lakers to be in after the loss yesterday to the Phoenix Suns. And I got a few things that I think came out of that game that I'm curious to get your opinion on, your thoughts on. Talked a little bit about it earlier today on the radio show. But I thought coming out the All-Star break, I was like, watch out for the Lakers. They've won 6 of 7. Looked good in those last couple of games. Only loss they had over those 7 games was against the Denver Nuggets. Are you surprised that they've come out here and have stumbled out the gate and are only 1-2, or should we not give them the benefit of the doubt?
I can't say I'm surprised because this has literally been the story of their season. Like, every time you feel good about where they're going, they have a stretch, sometimes extended stretch, that makes you feel like, ugh, maybe we had to be less optimistic about the direction of the team. I mean, we were talking about 3 games, so obviously we're talking about like very small sample.
Sure.
However, even in like they honestly in all 3 games, like even the win against the Spurs, I didn't think they looked great in that win. Like
I'm
that
with you on
was
that.
very much hey, like the Spurs are less talented, less together. I mean, as sensational as a Victor Wembanyama is, let's keep it real. They're one of the worst teams in the league.
11 wins.
Yeah, dang, I didn't even realize. I mean, yeah, that adds up.
Yeah,
They were
11 wins.
So yeah, that's was my point. Like, and I think like they brought that game. Like they got pretty close in that game. I want to say in the third quarter, before I think it was really like LeBron showed out early in the fourth quarter and really like punctuated the win for the Lakers. But they haven't looked that good in any of these games, or at least for an entire game. Granted, they're injured. I know who's out. Trust me, I get it. But it's the performance intensity, the inconsistency. The inconsistency's been back there after a stretch pre-All-Star break where you thought, all right, maybe they're getting something together. So I can't say I'm surprised just because I feel like I saw this like in January too.
Yeah. I think I just continue to get, if you go to a timeshare meeting and you get sold on a timeshare and then the person that you're there with is like, you're an absolute idiot. Why would you, to get sold on a timeshare twice? I feel like I've got sold 38 timeshares by the Lakers this year, and I keep buying. And it makes no sense. But I'm surprised more than anything else, I guess, that, like you said, at the San Antonio Spurs game, okay, the Warriors game, you didn't have LeBron, even though we've seen the Lakers have some success against the Warriors, but dug themselves a hole, and we're not going to win that game. It just didn't feel like it at any point. The Spurs game, there was never really a rhythm to the game, and I didn't think the Lakers were ever going to lose, but there were a couple times it's like, wow, this is only a 7-point game or an 8-point game or a 5-point game, whatever the total was. Again, didn't look impressive and didn't look like a team that was desperate. And for me, against the Phoenix Suns yesterday, I guess this is the part that's a little bit more mind-boggling to me, and maybe my expectations are wrong. Maybe I think they're better than they really are, but I really thought coming into yesterday's game, I'm like, I think we're going to get one of the best punches the Lakers are going to give because it's such a key game. You go look at the standings, and you could gain ground on the Suns and be within 2 games of just getting out of that 9-10 spot.
Yeah.
And the first quarter ends, they give up 45. It's like it's they made it a game, but just the way that game started, that one threw me off, and it shouldn't surprise me, but I think it did as well.
Yeah, I'm going into that game. For some reason, I felt more optimistic about their chances. I thought we even spoke to Darvin Ham about it pregame. Like, they're gonna say that what they say. They just focus on each and every game. Go down the line of cliches you want to say. However, there's also an acknowledgement of what you're just saying. Like we know we're in the standings, or they know where they're in the standings, and they know who's in front of them. There's an awareness of how each matchup is. Plus, it's a marquee matchup. So there's already going to be a little extra juice behind it just because of marquee matchup against one of the top teams in the West. LeBron, KD, like all these different factors, and to come out and not the defense. It was some of these live ball turnovers. It seemed unfocused.
Offensive rebounds.
Yeah, it just seemed to be the focus wasn't where it needed to be. The intensity wasn't where it needed to be. That could have been a game where you come out and you're supposed to come out and just show it from the beginning. And
you don't have a choice.
Yeah, it just wasn't there. And that's, they turned it on at a certain point. However, just 48 games of 48 minutes basketball, not 36, not 40, not 38. It's 48. So if you have a first quarter where you allow 45, you're always playing catch up.
You have such little margin for error. You know what I mean? I think that's what happened to them yesterday. And I understand that they made it a game. They did. And there was moments in that game where they got all the way down to 2. I'm like, I think the Lakers are probably going to win this game. And I know Royce O'Neal killed them and Grayson Allen killed them. Yusuf Nurkic looked like pick any great big men, and he looked like 4 of those different big men combined into one game yesterday. Nurkic was obviously amazing. What'd you make of, and I think this was, part of the storyline that came out of the game, which I wasn't a fan of. That's just my own personal opinion. But a lot of the Lakers started with Darvin Ham. You were there for it. They were frustrated, thought that there were foul calls that should have been called. Maybe this is Darvin Ham doing 2 things at once. Maybe it's LeBron as well. Maybe they just genuinely did not like the free throws disparity or the fouls that were not called for the Lakers. Or do you think it was strategic?
Probably a mixture of both. I mean, I don't know if it's the best look for the team in the league, or the team in the league with the best free throw differential to talk about not getting fouls.
100%.
Called.
Yeah.
It's not the best look, to keep it real. However, being honest, there were plenty of times in that game where they got fouled and the calls weren't made. And so maybe this is on their part sending a message to the league like, hey, we see this.
Keep an eye out. Yep.
Yeah. Like 8 free throws for a team like the Lakers. And when I say team like the Lakers, I'm not just talking about statistically where they rank in terms of free throws per game, all this other stuff. I just mean the stylistically how they play with the players they have. That is abnormally low. It's the lowest of the season. It's the lowest of like AD did not take a free throw at all, which you can criticize performance, whatever. Like this is the first time that's happened to him since last March. Like we're talking about an anomaly just in terms of low free throw shooting for this team. So maybe strategic of like, hey, like this can't happen again with the way that we play. Like this is a part of their game, getting to the line, slowing the game down in that aspect. But it's not the best look. But even with that, you acknowledge that they are right to an extent. Yeah, last night.
It's funny because when I was watching the game, I guess there might be a call here or there where like, oh, that could have been a foul, but it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was glaring, and I didn't feel like the broadcasters were also pointing it out and kept emphasizing it. We see that in sports, right? When it's that obvious. My issue was more with it. It sounded like. And maybe this is just where the Lakers are as well. And okay, yep, maybe they're going to give some attention towards the league and everything else. But it sounded like a team that the last thing I wanted to hear after that game, just as a fan, right? And I'm assuming there were a lot of fans out there. They want to hear, hey, look, we didn't come out the way we should have played. We didn't give up 45 points in the first quarter. Offensive rebounds was a problem. We allowed the role players for the Phoenix Suns to just dominate us. I just hated that the storyline from the game was not about that. Areas that I thought the Lakers could have played better, or Phoenix exposed the Lakers. they sounded like they were a whining team at the end of the game, hoping and praying that the referees were going to help them. And maybe that just has to do with the fact that they're frustrated. They're sitting where they are in the standings. They're only 3 games over 500. It's them, and it looks like, kind of a race between the Lakers and the Warriors here of who's going to be in that 9-10 and who's going to have the home game. I mean, we'll see what happens till 23 games left. But unfortunately, I felt the attention shifted away from where I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's also, I think it was the first question post game where like Darvin went through like all of the things that he even touched on, like the areas that could have been done better. I think it was like within that first answer, at the end of it was him talking about the free throws. And I think from there, that's kind of how it got brought up a little bit more, because it was just one of the last things he brought up in his first answer. But they addressed, like all of them addressed that, when you brought up the bad luck, the whining complaint, I thought you were going to talk about not getting back on transition defense, because that was also a problem in terms of they weren't getting the fouls called. And then a couple times guys would be talking. I mean, there's a couple plays that's on my mind. I think there was one time, not to single anybody specifically out, but there was one time I think AD was, he thought he got fouled, or I think he was like talking about a call that did not happen in the Lakers' favor.
Was this the Royce O'Neal 3 or somebody else?
I can't remember who made the 3, okay. But it was either Grayson or Royce. I'm pretty sure he was off the play.
By the way, one of those two, we probably nailed it, because the other one was Braun. Braun had a similar one where he was sitting on the other side, and I know that one for sure was Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, so there's just a couple, those plays matter, especially in a game where, you talk about you don't have a margin for error when you allow 45 points. Like, to their credit, they got back in this game. There were moments that Phoenix, was allowing them to, take control of the game, but you can't have these moments of frustration or allowing frustration to creep in and affects your defense. As difficult and challenging as it may be, as much as you're trying to, I guess, prove a point, like, hey, this is happening, trying to win the game. Like, sometimes you just got to focus. So, it's like I said, with the free throw specifically, it isn't, it's the one game. It's not going to happen again. It would actually be hilarious if who they're going to play, the Clippers, they get like 35 free throws.
They might get 35. You're right.
Yeah. But there's other issues from that game or these last few games that are bigger issues. Defensively, we saw that the rebounding has been, even before last night, the defensive rebounding has been an issue like for weeks now.
Kobe Price, who covers the Lakers, so he's part of the SoCal News Group, hanging out here on a Monday night, talking some Lakers basketball. Lakers got a game coming up. The next one's going to be on Wednesday. See all the comments coming in as well, so I appreciate you guys sending those in. I'll get to those a little bit later. Of course, if you got a super chat, fire it in. One example, and this is somebody just giving me a suggestion here in Pasadena where to go have coffee, so I appreciate Trouble in the 562 doing that. Mandarin Coffee Stand on Lake. Okay, I'm going to keep that one in mind. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. But I'll get to some of your guys' comments here in just a little bit. So, Cope, you mentioned, and I think this is the part where you got 23 games left. So if I thought a sense of urgency was coming, and maybe listen, there is a sense of urgency, but at times just that light switch doesn't come on. That as much as they want to turn it on to a level, and there's times that they can use the game yesterday against Phoenix as an example. At times they play bad basketball. At times they look pretty good out there and got it all the way down to a one-possession game. Granted, no Bradley Beal. 23 games left. What do you kind of view the Lakers right now as a team that's still very, very dangerous, or as much as they try to flick that light on, it's just not consistent enough?
I mean, I think if you ask teams above them in the standings, they would say, hey, they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Regardless of how everyone else is playing around them, regardless of what's going on, they're dangerous enough just because of those guys alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the inconsistency of the season. Look, they're 31-28. The 31-28 for a reason. We can talk about the injuries. We can talk about guys being out, whatever. Your record is what your record is for a reason. their deficiencies are what they are for a reason. They've between bless you between bless you.
I have it's almost like tradition. I always, probably once every 3 or live streams, I get a sneeze out. So welcome. It's not a live stream unless I sneeze. So go ahead, please continue.
That was my that's like my welcome to the to the league moment. That's my welcome to the show
brother.
moment.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. But no, this is the reason why they've gone back and forth between inconsistent play, inconsistent performances, inconsistent stretches. That's just kind of been who they've been throughout the season. Like at least recently, rebounding has been a big part of the problem. We saw that last night. That was an issue that was present earlier in the season. It seemed like they fortified it. And I think some of it did kind of correlate with who they had available. When Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood were available, I guess at the same time, along with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, when they just had bigger bodies available more often, they were a better rebounding team. And also the way that they could defend, less trapping, less blitzing. And if they did, having bigger bodies in the back line to box out when AD was pulled away from the basket, like that mattered. I think that matters now. However, they haven't been able to figure it out with Christian Wood out and with Vanderbilt out for, I think he's been out for 3 weeks now. So
Vando, I think, has played in 30-ish games, somewhere around there, all season.
Somewhere around there. I mean, I think 29 exactly.
Okay.
29 games. So we're talking. You said the 23. So they play 59. He's been available for 29. So he's missed half the games essentially. So at a certain that, maybe that's part of it. Absolutely, he's one of the more irreplaceable players on the roster just in terms of what he brings. However, you've had also 30 games to figure out how to, I guess, make up for that loss or make up for those losses. Whether it's Vanderbilt, Gabe, Cam's been out for an extended stretch for the past few weeks. Like the point of having depth on your roster is allowing that you're supposed to be able to plug holes better, and they haven't been able to plug those holes well enough.
Yeah, that's basically is that the entire offseason, right? We're gonna have so much depth. Take a little bit off Braun's back, and if somebody goes down, next man up. They've not done a good job of trying to juggle that. And I'm not telling you that it's easy, but I think that for the most part, if I'd have told you Anthony Davis was going to play in as many games as he has, Braun for the most part has been there. Obviously a good consistent amount of time. D'Lo missed a small stretch. Austin Reeves, I think, has played in every game. If I'd have told you that at least all those 4 players were going to be there, I would not think that the Lakers are in the position that they're in, which takes us to I want to kind of play out some scenarios for you, because I thought yesterday and the game against the Golden State Warriors, just really right out the break, right? Those 2 games are going to be critical, and we'll look at the rest of their schedule, because I know they got some really tough ones coming up in March, but at least most of them are going to be at crypto. But when you look at the play-in scenario, so I'm looking at the standings right here. They are 4 games back in the loss column from the Dallas Mavericks, the Sacramento Kings, the Pelicans, and the Phoenix Suns. So I know that's a lot of teams all bunched together, but that's 5 teams who all of them have talent, and a 4-game cushion with 23 games left to go. It's going to be tough. Let's just put it that way. Do you still feel like, what do you feel about where they're sitting right now? Do you feel like there's still a shot that one of those teams in front of them, if you think one of those teams you don't have confidence in, that they're going to eventually fall back? Just what do you make of their scenario? Not mentioning the Warriors yet, because I want to get to them in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I think last time we talked about this, or maybe I don't know if we talked about it extensively, I mentioned if there's a team that could fall, I mean, to me, it's perfect that we're talking about them tonight. It's the Kings. But they're such an up and down team. Like I think it was just last night, they beat the Clippers. I'm pretty sure
great.
They look great. They beat them in LA. Granted, Paul George wasn't available, but they still beat them on the road. And now I know it's second half of back-to-back, but so
lose to Miami.
Yeah, but you're facing a Miami team without Jimmy Butler, without, I think, with Tyler Hero, they're missing all these guys, and again, I get it. Second half of back-to-back. But then you just come out flat and you drop that game. So they're such a weird team. I mean, I think they've been 5-5 in their last 10 after tonight's loss. They've been so up and down. Like, to me, they could be a team that would fall out, but I couldn't see Phoenix, New Orleans, and Dallas all falling. So maybe that, to me right now, if the Lakers went 2-1 or even 3-0 coming out the break, there would be more optimism about them being able to get higher up. But right now, it's looking really, really tough to jump past 7. Honestly, 8 is getting to 8 looks like it would be daunting, but getting to 7 or higher, that's a challenge, that because you're not just counting on your own wins or your own.
You need help.
Yeah, you need help, and with 23 games left and being like you said, 4 games in the loss column, that or behind in the loss column, like that's a. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot in a small amount of time.
Yeah, that's basically why I asked the question, because there's a couple ways to look at this, but yeah, maybe Sacramento folds. Maybe they play 500 the rest of the way. Okay, well, even if they played 500 the rest of the way, then you can't play 500. That the teams that you have in front of you, and that's me asking a team that's 9 games over 500 at this stage of the season to go 500 the rest of the way. Can it happen? Of course it can. But at the same time, I'd imagine kind of this is who they are, that they're probably going to, that 9 games over 500 doesn't lend itself to they're going to go 500 the rest of the way. But of all these teams here, I think the Sacramento one's interesting. Dallas, once they made a couple of trades, all of a sudden they started winning games. Phoenix, to be honest with you, I thought yesterday changed my opinion on the Phoenix Suns. I've seen, yesterday was the 5th game that the Lakers played the Suns, 6 if you count the preseason game. And I wasn't really all that sold on the Suns. And these last 2 games that we played them, Beal goes off for 38. It's like, oh, wow, well, yeah, that's right. Beal can still do that if he's in a game. I know he's been injured for most of the year. But all these other guys, Royce O'Neal was a nice pickup. Grayson Allen looks very comfortable. I mean, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant didn't even have to be special yesterday, and they still beat the Lakers without Bradley Beal. I'm with you. If there's one team that you say maybe they're the team that's going to drop, Sacramento, New Orleans, I would just look at those 2 teams. But both of those teams have been pretty consistent to be between 8 and 10 games over 500.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem. I was trying to try to figure this out while you were speaking, but I think all those teams, or I think Dallas and Sacramento have 25 games left. If they win, let's say they go 13 and both teams go 13 and 12, they're both going to get to 47 wins or 46 wins. The Lakers are 31 and 28. Just do them like they would need to go. And the thing with the Sacramento is like they're 0-2 against them right now. They have 2 more matchups to close out the season.
That's right.
So now we're talking about tiebreakers. Like they would need to go over 46 wins. So that's also the tough part. Like you're like kind of going to like you're counting on those teams to play below the level they've played at all season, and that doesn't even get you to the playoffs. That keeps you at the top of the play-in.
That would they'd have to go 15 and 8 based on that.
And is that possible? Sure, but that's also like we've seen them have stretches of. I'm glad you figured that out, by the way, because I was trying to do the math in my head, couldn't do it, so I was going to roll past it.
I almost went ChatGPT. I'm like, listen, help me out here. All right, I was almost asking listeners to get a calculator out to figure this one out.
Right, that would have been perfect. Someone dropped that in the chat. But no, that's the position they put themselves in. Now, if they won, then we're talking about if they won one of these last 2 or last 3. I mean, we're talking about you said 15-8, 14-9. But that's the problem. Like you keep going these stretches or having these little stretches of, let's just call uninspired play. You're making it harder for yourself on the back end. But the Kings are still in play, especially because they still have 2 more. To me, those count as double games. Games you can climb up, and then games you can bring them down.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they play New Orleans one more time to close out the season, and by then you figure,
something's already figured out. I mean, we'll
yeah,
see if the Pelicans are figured out or not. And by the way, maybe not. I mean, to see what a trip that is, like looking at the standings and seeing 5 through 8 all have 24 losses. They're all within a half a game. That's crazy. And then you got, the other teams in front. But let me stay on the plane for a quick second, because I think what this is telling me, if we just pay attention to the Lakers, because they continue to tell us, guys, we're right around 500. That's just kind of what we are. Maybe we get a few games over, but we might fall behind. But it's feeling like the battle's not going to be getting to 7 or 8, and forget about getting even further. It feels like to me that the battle's going to be Lakers and the Warriors fighting for 9 and 10. I mean, that's where it feels like it's heading. Let me play out a scenario for you. If Lakers are the number 10 seed by the time we get to the playoffs, me personally, they're not making the playoffs. I mean, I think I've seen enough Lakers basketball to assume that they're going to go win at Golden State. It's not that can't be done, but I don't want to give this team the benefit of the doubt. To think that they're going to go on the road, win that game, and then have to go out on the road again, basically single elimination for 2 games. Are you let's just pretend Lakers are number 10 when the dust settles. Are you as pessimistic as me that if they're at the number 10 spot, I just don't feel like they're going to be in a 7-game set?
Aren't they like one of the better playing teams since this has come around?
Well, they're basically like, this is their position, is the play-in.
Yeah.
Okay, so they played the Warriors in a play-in. I know they played Minnesota last year in a play-in. Am I missing another play-in that they had?
I think you're right. Yeah, they play. Yeah, because it was 21 and 23. So
but they were number 7 both times.
Yeah, they were number 7 both times because they hosted both games. So, they've never had to play a playing game on the road.
Gotta get it at 10. Gotta get. I think that's my point. My point is that more than anything else, I can't predict it. You can as well, but I feel that if they're number 10 when the dust settles, and we see how this team, in any given night, they're going to need a lot of things to go their way. Yes, are there times where they look like they could hang with anybody? But man, I would not have much confidence if they're in that number 10 spot.
I think I'm a little bit more optimistic because I think could they go into San Francisco and beat the Warriors? They could. To me, and then after that, you're talking about. I mean, if the teams stay the way they are, we're talking about them going into
Sacramento or Dallas,
or maybe the Pelicans or the Suns. So yeah, let's just say Sacramento, Dallas, since they're the teams right there now. I would be less optimistic against Dallas and Luka in a game. The Kings. I mean, that
beatable.
Feels like a bad matchup for them. So maybe now we're talking about more. I'm losing optimism. Because I don't think they're a great matchup for the
Come
Kings.
over my way. I'll make whatever glass full that you have. I'll make it empty. No, the funny thing is, Kobe, it's not even the intention at all. It's just it feels like if they're number 10 by the time that play-in tournament starts, I don't see them having a game that weekend. Usually they play the play-ins like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and you got to get all the way to the end. And the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, was going to be the playoff game. That just seems. And here's the good thing is they don't have to fall to number 10. All they have to do, if they're not going to catch all 4 of these teams or any of these 4 teams that are in front of them, or those teams just don't collapse, well then. All right, then just grab that number 9 slot, win 1 game against the Golden State Warriors at home, and then we'll roll the dice with whoever that is after that. But that number 10 seems like that would be just awful positioning for a team that already, I mean, on the road, Lakers are 11 and 19 on the road. So now you got to go win 2 on the road, and that's your record on the road. That seems like an awful predicament.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there's also a reason. I'm looking through it as we speak right now. I mean, there's also a reason why in the history of the play-in, I'm pretty confident that no number 10 seed has advanced to.
I think you're right.
to the playoffs. I mean,
Okay, Miami I know was an 8.
yeah, if you're just looking at last year,
Mhm.
I mean, it was. Excuse me. If we're just looking at last year, it was Miami.
Okay.
They got the 8 seed, but they went into it as 7.
Oh, and they lost their first game.
They lost. I'm
That's
pretty
right.
sure they lost the first game, and then they
Yeah.
went into it as 8. Even though they were the 7th, they had the 7th best record in the East, but they lost the first game, and they.
Okay, that year that Minnesota won it, and Patrick Beverly basically was on the scoreboard celebrating that they won back-to-back championships. I don't know if you remember that, but the in-season tournament, or not the in-season, the playing tournament.
Oh yeah, they were.
What seed were they?
They were 7 that year.
Okay, they were 7 as well.
Yeah, they were
Okay.
7. And the Pelicans were 9, and they beat the Clippers.
That's right. PG didn't play.
PG didn't play, and
Okay.
Kawhi was hurt. I want to say he was
Okay.
out because
Yeah.
I think that was. I think Kawhi missed that season after tearing his ACL previous playoffs.
Okay.
Not Kawhi was out for the playing game. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you might have answered your question. I'm going to ask you, just stay on these play-in scenarios. Of these teams, who would you least want to play in a play-in game, okay? Between the Suns, the Pelicans, the Kings, the Mavs, and the Warriors, those 5 teams, which of the team do you think, if we could avoid them, you'd really prefer to avoid them? And then it sounds like Sacramento is your team that you're saying, okay, if I could pick one of those teams, I'd rather play them. Am I right on that or wrong on that?
Between, you said the Suns, Pelicans, basically 5 through 10 right now outside the Lakers.
Yep.
The team that I would least want them to play would probably be Suns and Dallas for sure.
Dallas is getting a lot of love. I feel like a lot of people are starting to kind of turn a little bit on the Mavs. I haven't seen them since their trades. I just know that they've been doing work.
Yeah, they've been playing really well. I've caught a few of their games since the deadline, and they've been playing really well. Granted, I think pretty sure they're just coming off a loss.
Yeah, they are. They lost. I forgot who they lost to.
Indy.
Indiana. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, lost to Indy yesterday, but I mean, I caught a little bit of their win over Phoenix. I caught their first game after the deadline. That was against OKC. So in both those games, they look pretty good, or really good rather. Phoenix and Dallas, just from what I've seen lately, I want to say Sacramento as a team that I'd be like, welcome, like bring them on. For some reason, they just don't feel like the best matchup with the Lakers don't match up well with them, and that's also would be what the season suggests. Like they're 0-2 against them right now, but I guess they've lost the season series to Dallas. They beat the Suns in the season series, but these last couple of games,
that's right. They have the tiebreaker on the Suns.
Yeah, right. The Suns have had their number, so there's a reason that they're number 9. That there's probably not many teams like maybe the Pelicans. Honestly, like maybe I think the Pelicans could be their best matchup.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Sacramento's so up and down. Yeah. They're going to try to run you out of the gym. Phoenix kind of turned my head yesterday. I mean, Phoenix looked fantastic, and Royce O'Neal, perfect fit. Let's see what happens when Bradley Beal comes back. Grayson Allen is nice. I don't know if a lot of people would agree with me on this one, but I kind of don't want to mess with the Warriors. And what I mean by that is in a one game, if Moody's available and Gary Payton's available, and not that I don't want to mess with them. I feel a lot more comfortable if that game's at Crypto. I feel a lot less comfortable if that game is up in the Bay in San Francisco. So I guess as I narrow it down, I'm okay with I think I'm okay with a Pelicans team. The one thing I will say with Dallas, and I feel like the way they just focus on Luka, but Luka can slice and dice you in one game easily. Listen, there's no easy path here, but I think I'm being more and more convinced that the chances of moving up to that 8, 7, or 6 or any of that stuff, I feel like I felt a much different way before, right when we got out of the All-Star break, from how I feel right now. So that has that portion has definitely changed. Can I ask you a quick question here? As we're in the NBA standings and we're looking at some of these other teams, you got Minnesota, OKC tied with the best record in the West, both 40-17.
Yeah.
Denver behind them, Clippers after that. Is it as simple as this, that everyone is still chasing the Denver Nuggets, and if there's a 7-game set, you're taking them as the favorite, no question about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of. I can't think of any team that I would really
Okay, toughest matchup you think for Denver?
toughest matchup for Denver. Uh
Can I tell you who I think sneaky good, and we're not talking enough about him?
Sneaky. Okay, so when you say sneaky good, it makes me think that it's a team not within the top 4.
Okay, no. Then
Okay.
less sneaky, we're just not talking about him.
Minnesota?
Minnesota, man.
Yeah, so when you asked that question, I was either going to say Minnesota or the Clippers. But I think Minnesota maybe a little bit more. They played them. I know this is honestly like what we said about the Lakers with Denver. But Minnesota actually played Denver relatively well in their playoff series last year. And they have the size and defensive acumen to, I think, just kind of hang with Denver and make them, like, granted, that can't be a first round series just because of how the season's going to break out.
Right. But it'd be second round.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a second round series. It could be the conference finals for all we know. But to me, that's a team that, if you like, I think, and I don't remember like how the regular season records have gone. This is just me based off what I've seen. But if you ask me a question, like, I feel like Minnesota and the Clippers would be like my 1 and 2, my 1A, 1B, and because I'm just really impressed by Minnesota.
Okay, so the Timberwolves, and I want to see here, they played only once so far this year, and it looks like Minnesota blew them out. So they only played one time so far this year, so it's just something to keep in mind. They'll obviously get a lot more matchups, and I'm not trying to sell you that, Minnesota won that game 110-89. So they still got 2 games in March, 1 game in April against each other. So we're going to get a lot of that matchup. I'm not telling you, watch out, Minnesota's going to go beat them in a 7-game set. I think just not enough conversation about the Timberwolves because they're the Timberwolves. But damn, it's to see them in OKC at 40-17. The Thunder are so ahead of their time. It's like, what the hell are the Oklahoma City Thunder going to be in 2 years from now? But those are 2 teams, obviously, no one's really talking about and just have been so consistent all year.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking it's funny, OKC has played Denver 4 times, and they've gone 3-1 against them. So
OKC has played Denver. Oh, really?
Yeah, they played them all 4 times already this season. So, and they've went 3-1 against them. So that's why I remember one of those OKC wins over the Nuggets. Honestly, maybe even 2. But if you ask me, in a 7-game series, I feel more confident about Denver's chance. The other thing about Denver that I don't think they're as good as last year's team.
Because of Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, or something else?
Yeah, no, more so that, I mean, I just don't know I don't think they're as deep. And granted, we also talked about their depth last year. It wasn't like they were that extremely deep. Like, they're really relying on like 6.5 to 7 guys.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but that really matters as opposed to this year. It feels like that margin and that's what happens when you win championships. Like, your role players or your role players, they get poached by other teams because, like, hey, that guy's really good. Let's pay him more money or give him a bigger role on our team. And that's what happened with them. So, but that top 5, I mean, when they're locked in, it's
as good as it gets.
It gets as good as it gets. And I know they have other, like, someone just dropped in the set. They got Reggie Jackson performing. I know. That's what I'm saying. They went from maybe 6.5 to 7 last year to 6 this year, but that extra guy or two matters, or not 6.5 to 7, 5.5 to 6, and that extra guy matters.
Okay, so if you're on the live chat, we appreciate you tuning in. If you're catching this a little bit later, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys don't mind. Kobe Price, who covers the Lakers for the SoCal News Group, is hanging out talking some Lakers basketball. For what I'm about to say, Laker fans, go ahead and don't listen to this portion, but I'm going to play this out. Kobe, do you know if we just took 1 through 8 right now, okay? And let's just say that's the playoffs started tomorrow, and this is your 1 through 8. Look at these matchups. Minnesota, Dallas, round 1. Okay? Thunder, Kings, round 2. I'm watching that. Denver, New Orleans, round 3, or the 3-6 matchup.
Yeah.
And Clippers, Suns battling 4-5.
Didn't we just get that last year? Didn't we just get that? We did just get that. And
okay, I wouldn't mind seeing Phoenix or the Clippers. I wouldn't mind seeing Phoenix take on Denver. Like, I don't mind if it's that big of a matchup early on. Now, listen, I hope it doesn't stay that way, but there is a lot of parity in the West. Obviously, the Suns or the Nuggets are the Nuggets, but a lot of these other series, I wouldn't be shocked either way. If the Dallas Mavericks and Luka beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's not really your typical 1-8 matchup. So, but that just kind of shows how good the West is and how good some of these matchups are, and how Lakers need to figure it out so they're not hanging out with you and I in mid-April.
Can I say something real quick? I'm actually on this note. If you actually go from the bottom up, and I think this is why, because a lot of talk is just how vulnerable like the teams at the top. And when we mean the teams at the top, people are really talking about the Thunder and Minnesota. And not really talking about like Denver and the Clippers in terms of like first round vulnerability.
Sure.
We're talking about those two teams. These are the stars for the teams on the team, like in the bottom of the play-in to like 5-6. It's Steph Curry. It is LeBron and Anthony Davis. It's Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. It's De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Zion and Brandon Ingram.
Oh my gosh.
Bradley Beal. Like, the star power at the bottom feels quote unquote higher or better than the star power at.
It's interesting.
So I think that's also why like people say that it's not so much an indictment on Minnesota or OKC. I think some of it, at least with those two teams, is
everybody has stars in those top 10.
All of them have stars, and Minnesota and OKC have not won playoff series, I believe. Well, yeah, they haven't won playoff series in this current iteration of these teams. Yes, Minnesota won. Not Minnesota. They've won the play-in games, but they haven't won playoff. Unless I'm forgetting something, they haven't won playoff series in this current iteration of these teams. So that's the other thing that's that needs to. I guess they have to prove as well. It's not just they're going to be tested against teams with like legitimate. I mean, I'm just listed off. All those guys between, like I said, Steph, AD, LeBron, Luka, like those are all NBA guys, and they're going to be in the bottom of, possibly be at the bottom 7 and 8.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what just kind of
that is crazy with the star power. And I don't even, kind of looking. It's such a drastic difference between the Eastern Conference. So the East is what it is. Unfortunately, you got Philly that's dealing with Joel Embiid, and eventually Julius Randle is going to come back. We'll see if the Bucks turn things around. But the East is in itself. But the West has just got so much intrigue. I want to get to a couple of these comments here because got a lot of people that have thrown in the comments, so I appreciate that. So let me read off a couple of these. You got there's so much depth in the West. Lakers have to get to the Western Conference Finals before we even start thinking about East Coast teams. Yeah, that's and I can't even. So I know last year, Kobe. Just kind of things lined up for the Lakers. First off, they were a number 7 seed, so no, they just needed to win one game to make the playoffs. They got Memphis in the first round, and Brandon Clark was out. John Morant wasn't healthy. Who else was missing in that? Steven Adams was another big that was out. The Golden State Warriors was a bad matchup for the Warriors. They had some things go their way. I mean, they were one play-in tournament game, one overtime win, but if it was a loss, having to face the Nuggets in the first round. So who would have known, what happens from there? They'd have probably lost from there because they ended up losing, getting swept anyways. But
Yeah.
I can't even think that far. There's still so much that has to happen that honestly, I'm still stuck at, are they going to be 9 or 10? And if they're 10, how the hell did they just make the playoffs?
Yeah, that's where they're at. I mean, before going to the break, I was thinking, could they get to 6 and maybe
Definitely.
maybe face Denver or you face any of one of those top 4 teams. I'm very curious to see how those top 4 play out because it feels like any of those teams, like if one team has a bad week or two, they're going to be 4.
Mm-hmm.
If one team has like a stretch of just winning like 9 out of 12 or 9 out of, they may be 1.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at this point, it feels more the Lakers talk is they're not going. I'm confident saying they're not going to fall at the play-in.
I agree. Yeah,
very like low bar to have. Like I'm basically saying they're not going to fall below 10. However, with the way things have played out, they shouldn't. But
it's funny. It's so I'm with you on that. And then yesterday I saw I think Utah won and Lakers lost, and I was like, wait, so what's the differential there? It's still 3 games, but I love the way you put it, that if you're setting your bar of, well, we know they're going to make the play-in, unfortunately, that's kind of the bar that the Lakers have set themselves. David Sabatini, Nuggets back-to-back could easily happen. Yeah, they're it's interesting listening to Michael Malone after they won the championship last year. It was basically they're trying to create a dynasty, and I know it's one thing to say it, another thing to do it, but they pull off another one this year. What makes us think that they can't win 3 of 4 or 3 of 5 or something along those lines? So we'll see what happens. Still a lot of basketball left, but I agree with David. Obviously, they can easily go back to back. Let me find another one here. Robert Shirley, the Lakers' current record 31-28, 525 win-loss percentage is a microcosm of LeBron's 6 years with the Lakers. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Let's see, Bron with the Lakers. So the first year, they don't make the playoffs. The second year, they trade for Anthony Davis, win in the bubble. The third year, they're out in the first round because Anthony Davis gets injured against the Phoenix Suns. The fourth year is the Russell Westbrook year. Lakers go 33-49, don't even make the playoffs. The fifth year, they're in the Western Conference Finals, and here's the sixth year. I mean, it's like literally this graph. It's like a Wall Street graph on a stock that I have no idea what it's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it right now. Yeah, I was thinking about it right now just in terms of what their actual win is. Their overall, like, is 525, 52.5%, like their
with Bron?
Yeah, like they've won. I'm gonna do the math real quick. Well, let's come back to this. But that's actually I'm gonna look this up as we're going. Yeah, I'm gonna look this up.
I'll tell you right now. Let's see what it is, because no, it seems a lot. It's 5. Is that right? 190 and 139 with LeBron.
190
or 190 and 139, somewhere around there, which is a 570 something percentage.
You said 190? Maybe I missed something. I had them at 100 and something. Not 100. I had them at more wins. So maybe
more wins.
Yeah.
Maybe this is accounting for games he missed, like he personally missed.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's probably because they've won 238 games since he's joined the team, but maybe with the games he missed, it's been 190. So
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. It's it is for me that stat. No matter what it is, whatever their regular season record is, just the results are so like this. You know what I mean? And like you said, this would be the play-in tournament Is this the fourth year of the play-in tournament? I think it's the fourth, right?
20. No, this will be the fifth.
This would be the fifth?
19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah. This will be
Okay, this will be the 5th. So that's 3 of the 5 years they're in the playing tournament. So that kind of says a little bit about that as well.
And yeah, originally weren't they not the biggest fans of it or something like that?
That's right.
He's been there, and last couple of times it's been their lifeline.
You're right. For those who weren't fans of it,
granted, they were 7, so they can at least say, "Hey,
we'd have been in anyways.
We would have been the 7th seed anyway." So,
That's fair.
and they won both times. So
yeah, that's fair.
They could at least take that one.
So they got a. Actually, let me throw this one at you. I was going to throw this at you earlier, but I'm going to throw it. So I think we've already established Denver is one of the top 3 in the Western Conference. Who's your top 3 in the West? If you had to just 1, 2, 3, I'm taking my chances. Who's coming out of the Western Conference? Who are the 3 that you're putting there?
Denver, Clippers.
Okay.
Denver, Clippers.
Minnesota or Phoenix?
Yeah, I'm actually that's it. That's what I'm trying to think between those 2, Minnesota or Phoenix. Which feels really disrespectful to OKC considering the year they're having. It just feels.
It's okay. I'm with you on that. I'm a fan of that franchise, the way they've rebuilt and the way they're doing things. But I'm with you. I think a lot of people would lean towards, well, they're not ready, right?
Yeah. Everything about the way their season has gone has suggested that, statistically and how they play, feels like they are a legitimate, like they play, like they have a MVP contender. They have a solid role player. I don't even know. Let me even call Jalen Williams a role player.
He's a baller.
He's a straight baller.
He's a baller.
Calling him a role player feels like undervaluing him as a player.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So they have a solid,
I haven't seen him miss a shot. I swear, every game I've watched him play, the guy has never missed a shot.
He's incredible, and Chet's been great. Like, even calling him a role player feels like undervaluing what he's brought in his first playing season, after missing all last season. So they feel. I feel like if we did not look at their age, we would feel so much better about them as a team. It's just this group hasn't done it before, so we have to see them, and I guess that's fair. At least Minnesota, we've seen them fall in the playoffs a couple times the last few years. OKC, we saw them. They lost in the play-in.
Was it playing? Okay, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So we haven't seen them. We haven't seen them earn their stripes, so to say. So to think of them going from, playing team to, you're talking about top 3 in the West, you're saying, hey, you're going to make the conference finals. That doesn't feel organic. That doesn't feel like it happens. However, I'm having a tough time with them. Like I said, if I feel like we just didn't look at their age, we would be like, oh yeah, they're a contender for sure, just off the makeup of their team. I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna say Minnesota, and I'll be happy to be proven wrong by Phoenix. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Minnesota's at least shown not just the previous couple seasons of earning their stripes, plus what they've shown this season in terms of their growth. I feel like they are, which feels weird because if you ask me inversely, who is the team at the top most likely to get upset by a team at the bottom? Yeah, I'll also say Minnesota. So I'm in a really weird spot with Minnesota.
Well, I think anybody trying to give, I'm kind of with you on this. I think if you told me I can just go on the players that I rely on and the team, so I think saying the Nuggets, the Clippers, and Phoenix is I don't know if that's the proper way to put it, is the safe pick. Now two of those teams could easily face each other in the first round. It would be Phoenix and the Clippers right now. Yeah. I'm going to put Minnesota in my top 3. They play defense. They got, guys that they can get enough offense, but they are a fantastic defensive team. They got the size. They got some role players. So I'll put them in my top 3. How much have you seen? Duck 122 says the next stretch is brutal. Could be 2-8. How much have you looked ahead? Because I want to. Lakers got a game coming up against the Clippers on Wednesday. I'm going to kind of make this one of our final topics here, and I appreciate everybody that's hanging out with us. But how much have you looked past the Clippers game of what the Lakers got coming up? So I'm going to give. I'll just let everybody know what it is. They got a game on against Washington coming up on Thursday. But Kobe, how about this stretch?
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of home games here, but let's just do what it is.
What you're about to list off are, if you're about to say, I think you're going to say, all of these games are in Los Angeles, or except one.
Yes, and that one is still in the state of California.
Yeah, they are not. The Lakers aren't leaving the state of California until March 25th.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, so a lot. Yeah,
that's right.
I've been thinking about the stretch since the beginning of the season for my own selfish reasons. I don't leave the state of California for another month.
That's a good way of putting it there. By the way, that was the same thing. Remember at the beginning of the year in January, they went through that stretch where they didn't have to leave till I think it was a game. Well, they had the one road game at Utah, and then the rest were at home. So look at the stretch that they have here. These are home games starting in March. Denver, OKC, Sacramento, Milwaukee, Minnesota, at Sacramento, Golden State, and then you have an Atlanta, Philly, Indiana game before you go out on the road. But the month of March, you got some real teams that are coming in. And it feels like, okay, hey, let's say they split against Denver and OKC. You'd be like, okay, hey, that's good. These are two tough matchups. Let's say they split between Sacramento and Milwaukee. Okay, hey, these are two tough teams. Minnesota, Sacramento, you split. They don't have the luxury of splitting, but they're also playing some really good teams in the process.
Yeah, no, this is a season-defining stretch to me. I'm not saying this – again, this is also on the stretches where we mentioned that they shouldn't fall below 10 just based off how many games ahead they are of Utah. But even with that, like, this is the kind of stretch that will determine whether they can even get past 7. Like, to me, this will determine if they can be a playoff team, not just a play-in team. But even to that point, like, this will also determine if they can even get to 7 or 8. Like, this stretch it's a brutal stretch. It's a brutal stretch. And, maybe there could be some luck here or there in terms of, they could get some guys back they should get get some guys back during the stretch. Cam seems like his return to the floor is imminent. You're hopeful that Gabe Vincent could return at some point during that stretch. We'll see what happens with Jared Vanderbilt.
Have they said anything else on Vando?
Not as of late. We're approaching the
reevaluation at some point.
Yeah, like when he got hurt in Boston, I think they said 3 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually today is the 3 weeks since, or not today.
So it was February 5th. So yeah, I think you're right. I think we're 3 weeks in.
Yeah, 3 weeks. So yeah, it's so 3 weeks since they announced it. I don't know if they announced
if they actually
yeah. So we're basically at 3 weeks essentially. So this week will be telling. Same with Gabe. Like, I think that this is around the time where his evaluation period is supposed to be. Christian's evaluation period of 2 weeks. So they should get some guys back. I mentioned Cam should be coming back soon. So they said 2 and 8. Like, if I woke up and 2 and 8 would be brutal if they went 2 and over the stretch. But that seems so. I get why, because they've been so consistent. But this feels like you got to go at least 4 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
5 and 5 would be all right. We can
5 and 5. But here's the funny thing: 5 and 5 gives you a little bit of breathing room. 5 and 5 also means you got 13 games left, and now you're going to start a road trip or whenever that road trip starts.
Yeah.
We'll make this the final one here as we're closing in on an hour, and I appreciate you hanging out here. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Clippers are a weird team to me. I don't know how sold I am on the Clippers. I in some of the games I watch of them, there's such you take a shot, and then you take a shot, and then you take a shot. There just doesn't seem like this fluid. I don't know where the ball's going to go, and it's just constant motion. A lot of iso ball, I feel. What do you make of the Clippers? What do you make of the matchup on Wednesday?
I mean, I think I'm probably a little bit more optimistic on the Clippers. Yeah, I do. I get what you're saying in terms of it feels so. Your turn, my turn.
Yeah.
I think there seems like the hierarchy's there with them. Like they understand, like when you get James Harden and he says, "I am the system" or whatever he said at the time.
Yep.
I'm not a system player. I'm the system. Like it feels like that's one of those like, he's gonna buy him. But to me, he's been what the Clippers have needed. He's made life easier for Kawhi and Paul George. Like they don't have to carry as much of the load during the regular season. I think that's why you're seeing, especially Kawhi, play some of the best ball of his career, quite frankly, and the most efficient offensive play from him in his career. If there is one thing that could maybe hold him back, it is the you turn, my turn sort of thing. And also, we've seen this story with James Harden. Name the team, name the scenario.
Playoff matchup.
Yeah. The one thing that you could kind of hope, or the thing that I guess you could say for the Clippers is they're not as reliant on Harden from we need you to be a star
to do everything. Sure, you need 15 assists and 20 and 35 points. Yep.
Yeah, even like obviously the Houston teams were built around him. Even the Philly teams, even though they weren't built around him, they needed him to play like a star to be the second banana behind Joel Embiid. With the Clippers, like they need him to, it helps set up all these scores. Not just Kawhi, Petre, but Powell when you're on the floor with him, like set up our guys, Zubac, get all these guys involved. We don't need you to, shoot 15, 20 times a game to be effective. We need you to be a playmaker and score when the opportunities are there. And the other thing is if he's not playing well enough, they have the depth or the requisite depth to not bench him, but like reduce his minutes if he's not playing up to par. So that's the one thing that I feel like for the Clippers, they have what it takes to reduce his role if necessary.
They got dudes. I mean, Norman Powell, Amir Coffey is not a bad player. Obviously, Terrence Mann. They got guys that. I mean, we'll see how much of it's on Harden's shoulders, but it's the next game for the Lakers. Another big game. I mean, the last thing you want to see is they come out the break starting 1-3, but that's going to be kind of what's on the line there. Kobe, I appreciate it, brother. This was fun. I know the last time we did this, you were in Indiana for the All-Star game, and Bron was getting ready to talk, so we were, we had. We couldn't take our time, let's put it that way. So, but we got a chance to do that. If you got Cope, can you plug your Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is? Just let people know here on the chat where they can find you and how they can follow you during all these games.
I will. And before I do that, while we were talking, I did the math on the whole record thing just so I want to figure it out.
What do you got?
The Lakers, since the 2018-19 season when LeBron joined the team,
okay.
So even the games that he hasn't played, they've won 228 of 448 regular season games. Okay. So that works out to 53.1%.
Okay. So see that comment was actually pretty close there, around 52.
52.5. So yes, this actually is very much how the Lakers, obviously they've had higher highs and lower lows than this season. Yep. But yeah, I was like, I need to figure that out. Like that's a very insightful, like random. I feel like they were making that up. So I was like, I need to actually do the math on this.
No, but that hits, right? Like that does make sense that they would be that close to 500 because of the ups and downs.
Yeah. So yeah, and they've been around this. Like last season was also another season like that's last season was where they won the same amount of games, or they're on pace to win essentially the same amount of games as last season. So
they had that stretch too at the end of last year where they were 18-8, something like that, over their last 24.
18-8, 18-7. I want to say. So they're in this. They won 50. What was it? What was the math? They won 52.4% of their games last season. That 52.5 this season. they could go on a run and maybe they can increase it, but at the same time, they've played at the pace of the entire season's or last season's team in terms of the entirety of the season. If that
That's
makes
right. Yeah, a lot of those
So-
guys were new, and they're not new this year.
Yeah, so just some food for thought before we jump off. But Twitter, Kobe_Price. I sometimes get that confused. It used to be Kobe_P. Then I changed it. I
Okay.
wanted to change it back, but I couldn't. So Kobe_Price on Twitter.
Okay.
Best place to find me.
Perfect.
Lakers analysis, news, and just any updates.
So if you're listening to any of these games, pregame, postgame, you're going to hear Kobe on there. He's doing a great job covering the team and obviously all the practices and everything else. So you can go read all his articles. And Kobe, I appreciate you taking the time coming on, my brother.
Appreciate having me.
All right, man. We'll see you then on Wednesday. Lakers and the Clippers. For everybody else that's hanging out, thank you for doing so. We'll see what the Lakers can do on Wednesday. Tomorrow, Sammy Long, our intern, is going to put out a preview of the Lakers and the Clippers, so keep an eye out for that. And we'll catch you guys on Wednesday postgame. Thanks, Laker fans.